So it's a mobile business, food and beverage based, which is the topic of the day.
We don't do traditional setups that normal food trucks will do. Well, we roll up, set up a whole front of house display with a tent, and we bring pink flamingos and we put music out. We have music out in front of our food truck. Yeah.
Getting the trailer
Go on,
was the hardest thing ever. I swear to God. Every night we were out back and you're like, I just want a trailer. I don't care what it is.
In food truck world, there is catering and there is vending. As we are growing this business, we are finding that vending is not necessarily the most predictable, but we are working towards building the catering side of the business more and more and more and more. It's more predictable and it's actually more money.
You really have to listen to what your customers want, because sometimes you have to abandon things that you thought were important.
Right.
Sometimes you have to adapt things that you thought were important.
Correct.
It's just the way business is. Welcome to the Every Turn Podcast, a place for entrepreneurs to tell their stories, share some of their industry knowledge and secrets, explore their challenges, and yes, of course, their successes found within it all. I'm your host, Chad Chase, and I look forward to sharing this week's episode with all of you, so let's dive right in. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today on the next podcast episode of the Every Turn Podcast. Today, I am joined by Brian and Rosie with Rosie's Kitchen. What's the other second half of that?
It's Rosie's Kitchen Inspired Cuisine.
Rosie's Kitchen Inspired Cuisine.
But we'll go by Rosie's Kitchen.
And it is a mobile food truck, correct?
Correct.
So it's a mobile business, food and beverage based, which is the topic of the day of how to get started, the path that you took. We're going to dive into all of those questions. You're an expert at it now, right? You've been doing it for how long?
For the mobile food side, we're about a year into it.
Mm-hmm.
But Rosie and I both have combined about 40 years experience.
Yeah.
In
food and beverage. Mm-hmm.
At various levels too.
Mm-hmm.
Executive, what did you were executive purchaser?
So I used to work for GCU as their controller for all of the food operations, on the campus. For that, I was in hotels as a general manager, but came up through the food and beverage ranks and then switched over to the room side. So I have hotel experience and finance experience. And now threw all that out the window and decided to start a food truck with my wife.
You sure did.
And then you had been a manager at a local restaurant for quite some time when I first met you.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when we were starting our food truck, you came over and you're like, what are you doing? You're making a mistake.
Yeah, you're like, oh, maybe you could give us some advice. And I was like, yeah, I don't know.
We knew exactly what she was talking about because we never had saw her again. So
I was at Lucille Smokehouse Barbecue for 14 years, started as a manager and then worked up to general manager. I was their general manager for a very long time, until after the pandemic, and then decided to run for my life. And then before that, many restaurants managing, and I got to do catering out in New York for a while for various small catering companies and societal catering companies, like for some of the richest people in the world. That was a lot of fun. So yeah, all over the place, but mostly food and beverage for me. Stayed as close to food as possible because why not?
Yeah, I think sometimes being on the other side of it, right? Like you work for someone in the food and beverage industry, you see it one way. And then when you're on the other side and you see the little margins that exist sometimes, sure, it's a different perspective altogether. So tell me a little bit about your business. What do you do? What type of food do you serve?
Sure.
All those.
Rosie?
So currently we are doing mostly Italian, based on recipes from my family with hints of recipes that we developed ourselves just throughout the years together, just cooking together. But the foundation of the recipes have come from my family's recipes and my Italian history and heritage. But lately we have been dipping our toes in more fun things like mac and cheese. We're doing like a lot of fun mac and cheese items now, just to kind of be more family friendly and kid friendly and do things that are a little more what's the word? I don't want to say manja cake, but I'm going to say manja cake.
Family friendly.
That are a little more manja cake, that speak more to
a wider palate, a basic palate.
The everyday person. Yeah, because not everybody wants a big Italian meatball sandwich every single day.
Right.
I don't know why.
I don't know why.
But apparently that is not what people want for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I don't know.
Well, we started out doing just sandwiches, right? When we first got into this, it was just sandwiches. We had 4 sandwiches. And that was it.
Which were fantastic.
Which were fantastic sandwiches. They were meatball, a chicken parm, Italian sausage and peppers, and a pesto, right?
Yeah, so the pesto was my favorite.
Yeah, still is. I think the pesto is fantastic. I had one the other day. Anyway, but then we expanded and we wanted to kind of open up that market a little bit. And so we decided to buy a salamander, a cheese melter. And we did like these French bread pizzas, we call them pizza rockets. And then we added drinks and added desserts and now we adding mac and cheese and all of that kind of stuff. And all of those things we're trying to make sure that we stay within our brand, right? Because our brand is a very 1950s diner feel to the truck. And that's kind of where our sensibilities have lied for a very long time. And so the sandwiches were inspired from her side of the family, but are trying to make it all fit within the Italian diner concept. And how we have justified it over this last year is that even in the 1950s and 60s, when diners were a thing and there were restaurants to go to, they still had Italian restaurants. Because usually when you think of diner, you don't think of Italian food.
Right.
When you think of the 1950s, you're not like, oh yeah, that reminds me of those meatballs, but that's where the Dean Martin came out of, and the Frank Sinatra and all of those kind of things. And that's the side of the world that has kind of spoken to us for a while. Am I right?
Yeah, 100%. And we also tried to that's why we called it Inspired Cuisine, because we wanted to have the freedom to change and be inspired by things, and have a whim. Like someone recommended to us that we should do mac and cheese, and we're like, yeah, we should do. Pasta and cheese. We're already kind of doing Italian. What's wrong with doing mac and cheese? And so we were inspired by that, and away we went. And so
and it made sense. So the business model was, because with that Inspired Cuisine, we have allowed ourselves to evolve. Right. A lot of these mobile food trucks, you'll see they'll throw pictures of their food on the side of the truck. Which
drives me crazy.
Well, it's fine and good. Like when you're driving and you see that they have a hamburger on there. Ooh, that looks good. But then you are locked into always having hamburgers for forever, unless you want to spend the $3,000 to rechange your brand or your wrap or whatever. Yep. And we just did not want to do that. We wanted to evolve, let our business be able to evolve. Right. And I think that's been successful for us in that model, because we haven't strayed from the core or who we are as business people, but we have allowed room for growth. And I think that's kind of where we're going to stay with this for the next year.
Yeah, I think that's a great plan. And I think it's an important piece. We did the same thing when we started Urban Grounds Coffee. Ours looked like, we kind of thought like the old brick from Seattle alleyway is how it looked. We even had the back door had part of a wrap on it that looked like a rusted old back door.
Right.
And tried to stick to that, where you kind of pique somebody's curiosity with your design so that it makes them come over and they're surprised at what they end up with. Right. That's
right.
Where you kind of get that cult following type of thing.
Correct.
Sure.
That's one of the things we get commented on probably the most when we're out and about is, oh my God, this is such a cute concept, such a cute truck. Because we don't do...
They're talking about your wife.
Yes, no, I know. I'm very well aware.
You look just like her. Who?
The cartoon. What was I going to say? Now I forget.
About the design of those.
Because I'm just now thinking about how much my wife's a smoke show.
Okay, thank you.
No, we don't do traditional setups that normal food trucks will do, right? So a food truck rolls up, open up its window and sells their stuff. Well, we roll up, set up a whole front of house display with a tent, and we bring pink flamingos, and we have these really kind of ornate menus that go up and different things to really kind of attract, and not in your typical carnival food truck atmosphere, but it's actually very, very curated. We curate it to look like this. It takes us about 10 minutes to get it all set up. And then we open the window and then we sell and we put music out. We have music out in front of our food truck because that's another component of who we are as business people and as a couple and whatnot. Music is very important to us.
That's
it's immersion. Exactly. That's exactly right.
Yeah. It resonates with me because I always, in everything that I've done business-wise, I've always looked at it as an ecosystem, right? And an environment. And people see with their eyes, they taste with their mouths, they hear with their ears. And when you have that all-encompassing atmosphere, it really rounds out your brand and people can understand it better, I think. So yeah, I love that whole concept. How many, you have one food truck?
We have one food truck.
Just one.
For now.
There's only two of us, and so far they do not outnumber us.
Right. We are not. We don't have a deep bench. It is just literally just the two of us as employees, as the owners, as that is it. We do the cooking, we do the cleaning, we do the driving, we do the serving, we do all of it.
It can be a lot.
It's daunting. It's daunting.
Yeah,
it is a lot, and more than we thought going to be going into.
Yeah, we thought we're like, we can do this. We have all this experience. This is going to be just fine.
Done this forever.
Yeah, we know how to do financials. We know how to do this. This is all like, we're old hats at this. And then just kind of actually having the stamina to do all of that and maintain the social life that we got really accustomed to. Right. You know, we enjoy going out with friends and hanging out with neighbors and doing all of that kind of stuff. And all of that has been, kind of thrown to the wayside.
Right.
For the most part. And, we've got kids, we've got the whole thing. And so just kind of finding the balance of that, I think it took us down a couple pegs.
Well, you almost forget that when you're in the corporate world or any sort of environment like that there is a whole support system that comes along built in with that. And then we say, we can do this on our own. And that whole support system kind of goes away.
You're like, where's the person that cleans the bathrooms around here?
Right. But the dishwasher hasn't shown up in like 6 months.
That's me.
Fired.
Yeah. And that ends up, all of those jobs end up on our shoulders. And we have not grown to a point where we can have hire more people and do this, that, and the other. We're not there yet.
And sometimes too, when you get to that point, it's hard to let go of the money. Because you're finally to the point where you're like, I'm actually making money.
Right.
Now I'm going to have to give it up to gain, some time. And with Urban Grounds, I had to do that same exact thing because Anthony had done it for 2 years, I think, every Saturday, couldn't take vacations. And then, he has a corporate full-time job. And he finally said, I quit. I'm not coming back. And when it literally was downpouring out, we went down to the farmer's market that Saturday. He stepped out of the truck and it was like a foot of water. It got wet up through his shoes, into his socks. He climbed back in the truck and he's like, we're going home. And that's when he quit. But I found the first guy that I interviewed, his name was Grayson, and he had stuck with me for how many years.
Right.
And, he has his own story. We'll have him on at some point. And I just, you sometimes you meet people in your life that it's just meant to be at that moment.
Right.
And it just was one of those things for us.
Well, it's cool because we see Grayson frequently out and about.
He's a doll baby.
The food truck community, the food and beverage truck community is kind of a small community, and you end up kind of working with other trucks frequently. And we see them, at least probably once a month-ish.
Yeah. It's him because he's like real tired, exhausted.
No, we all
That's
are.
How we all are.
That's what we look like. Yeah. That's how you know.
You got to update the cartoon on the side of your food truck.
She needs to be melting a little bit more.
She has a stroke.
She looks like she's just bought the food truck. She ain't exhausted yet.
Right.
She's not jaded. She's still a princess.
Yeah. So that brings me to my next question. What inspired you guys to start a food truck? I mean, you kind of talked about your experience that you've had, but sometimes experience isn't inspiration, right? Sometimes it's not the flame, but it's the justification to make the leap.
Sure. Well, I think for us, it's kind of the same story that probably a lot of people that go into business for themselves is I'm tired of working for other people. So I think I can do this on our own.
You're telling this story wrong.
Oh, go ahead.
There was an exact moment that we decided to do this food truck.
That is true.
Okay.
We had the idea to do it. But
right.
Yes, go ahead.
An exact moment. Yes. So we went to the Rockabilly Bash, right? And we went with our friends.
At Lake Pleasant.
With our besties, Myra and Pringles. Mm-hmm. And we went there and we're like, we're kind of hungry. Mm-hmm. And so we walk up to this food truck, and it was more of a tent than a food truck.
It was a tent, yeah.
And we're watching these dudes just make money hand over fist, right? And they're just slinging. We're like, we're going to get some nachos, right? Nachos. They must be great. These dudes are just raking in the dough.
And there was a line out the door.
And they're charging like $10 for a Gatorade and like just kind of raping people with their prices.
Right.
And we're like, there's no need for this, but whatever. So we get our nachos and open up this pizza box.
In a pizza box.
And we're like, okay, this is going to be great because, sling it to me in a big old pizza box. Right. I'm going to get my grub on. This is going to be awesome. And the chips were soggy and nasty.
It was a bunch of chips with really gross stuff on top.
Yeah, the cheese sauce was clumpy and cold, and the meat was
clumpy and cold.
And everything about it was awful. And we're like, do better.
Right. Yeah.
Like I want to give you my money. I'll part with all my money. At this point, I'm hungry. I'm hungry and I'm thirsty, and here's all my money. And we both looked at each other and we're like, we could do better than this. We should be here next year. We should be here next year with a truck. We should. And Brian and I spiral very easily with ideas.
Sure.
And we more is more.
And we yes and each other
very quickly. Which is,
and you know we can do this. I can do this too.
You know what else? You know what else we should do?
Spend more money.
Yeah, and then we'll go home and have a couple beverages, and then we become really smart.
Right. Yeah. Right.
If you ever need to borrow Anthony, he will bring down your balloon house real fast.
See,
he's a finance guy, and he's like, but I can't say that's the wholeheartedly like that's it, because there's obviously a bigger piece to it. Like he has encouraged me to continue dreaming and stuff, and he really has helped fund a lot of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think if I had what you have going on, it could be dangerous.
Well, that was part of our vows to each other when we got married, is to not be a dream killer and to always be supportive of that. And even when the answer is no, to try to find a way to say yes. Yeah. And that's what we try to do, is like, well, maybe not that, but what about if we went and did this instead? And that's really kind of our dynamic and how I think we've been successful.
It has led to our demise.
Wait, what are you? I think you're saying the same thing I'm saying.
What are you saying? But yeah,
anyway, so the cool button to that story is, we had said, we should do this festival, and lo and behold, he ended up doing that festival the next year.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
And we're as successful as we could have been
in a festival
at that festival. Mm-hmm. And that our truck speaks to this audience. Mm-hmm. It's very much a rockabilly kind of look to
pin up. Pin up.
Yeah.
We were in our element.
And
I think we did just
sold
fine.
all those tiki mugs, and it was as successful as we could have been at that festival.
At a festival. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. But when we got we submitted for that, and there was a whole application process of trying to get into it.
Yeah.
And they said, yes, you're in. That's when we knew, we're like, oh my gosh, we're destined to do this. Mm-hmm. And
we didn't even really have we made up a menu. We had never made a sandwich. We had never cooked a thing. I don't even think we really, we didn't have the truck.
Right.
We submitted thinking, well, if we get this, we better figure out how to get a food truck.
We were acquiring a truck at the time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then we did it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
that's cart awesome. Before the horse.
Very much so.
Which, a lot of people
sometimes
do.
You got to do that.
Yep. Next question is, did you write a business plan or do a feasibility study?
So, me?
Go ahead.
So, we did not do a formal business plan, but we did a 3-year study on forecasting for what our revenue was going to be. And we did a an actual, we did a balance sheet on it and what that would look like, a potential balance sheet on it, and did carve out all of our financials. We started with declining checkbook. We started that right off the bat. We started off with inventory right off the bat and a costing sheet and pricing sheet. That was our very number one thing we wanted to make sure that we got down. Like I said, I had come just from doing all the finances for GCU, and these are the things that we did for each of those operations. And there was 40 some odd operations at the time that I was there that were all independent businesses. Most of them were franchise businesses, but there was also independent businesses inside there. And we just kind of took those models and plugged it over to our side and kind of, made our own adaptation of that.
That's great. I like that. Yeah. Most of my businesses, I don't write a business plan and then I don't do a feasibility study, even though when I was in college, our business classes really focused more heavily on feasibility studies than they did on business plans, just because there's a lot of folks that, you put a lot of time and money and energy into a business plan and then it sits on a shelf for most people, where a feasibility study is more of a guiding document that says, this is possible. If you take the steps that you intend to, you might survive. And so I like asking that question because I think having something is important. It's something that I've learned over the years, even though I'm still not the greatest at it. But with this next phase that we've been working on, we're building out a business plan. We're building out a visualization because it's going to take buy-in from wherever we end up building it, from the municipality, which is a large hurdle to overcome sometimes, depending on what community you're in. And I think when people see those things and it's more tangible, you get more buy-in behind it.
Well, we also did not do traditional financing for all of this. We didn't go to a bank and that's, for me, if we were going to do that, that's when we would have put together a business plan. Because in my past, I have created business plans for other people, certainly not for myself, but for other people. And if we were going to go the traditional route of getting financing from the bank, we would have put that together. We would have shown that. But we did a lot of this kind of self-funded, except for the expense of the actual trailer. We financed that, but the rest of it was kind of on our own, for our own credit cards, our own this, that, and the other. So we didn't go with, we didn't have to go down that route.
And it's a good point that you made there too. The reason why I don't do business plans anymore is because one business that I started in college was an online clothing company back when online clothing companies didn't exist. And I applied for financing at every financial institution in Iowa City. And with some of these smaller banks, they didn't have commercial lenders. You met with the CEO of the bank. And I got irritated. So the first, I had this beautiful business plan written out, schematics of our floor plan, because we were looking at moving into brick and mortar at a local mall. And I had all this data, and they'd sit there, they'd go through it, and they would say, yeah, that looks good. That looks good. Oh, your financials. First guy said, your financials show that you have a law. You're going to lose money in your first few years. You don't believe in yourself? You don't think you're going to make money? And I said, well, all of the business classes that I have taken say that we're not going to make money within the first 3 years, 3 to 5 years. So that's why I have that. He said, well, we would never approve this because of that. And then I said, okay. So I reach across the table to take my binder business plan back. He said, oh no, this is your application. We have to keep this now. So every bank I went to, I had to lose $25 to $30 on this business plan that I was handing over. And that was irritating. So I go to the next guy, I changed the financials out to show that we made a profit. Yeah, looks good. Wait, this shows you're going to make a profit in the first year. Do you know the statistics on? And I'm like, oh. So the third bank I went to, I had the financials out in a folder, and he said, yeah, it looks good. Oh, where's your financials? I said, which ones do you want to see? The ones that show a profit, the ones that show a loss. And he kind of looked at me. I said, look, this is what had just happened to me. They are the ones that ended up approving the loan. and I ended up not taking it, and that's a whole nother story. But you learn something in those moments, and it really taught me something. Don't deal with banks.
Don't deal with banks.
Right.
Do it yourself. If you can.
we typically don't, and even I think as we grow, if we have to borrow the money, then we can't afford it.
Right.
So
as much as humanly possible.
As much as humanly, and I mean, certainly we credit cards, everything are always borrowing money, but if we actually have to go seek out a loan to make the business grow
and justify it to somebody else,
we cannot afford growing the business.
Right.
So when we get enough money that we can throw at bigger operation or brick and mortar, whatever
next step is.
Whatever the next step is, if we can't self-fund that, then we can't afford it. That's kind of, I don't mean to go all Dave Ramsey on that, but there is some truth to that Dave Ramsey philosophy and thought is if you can't pay cash, you can't afford it.
Right.
That's kind of where we're at with this.
Yeah.
And when you get to the end of the road, whatever that is, whether it's a brick and mortar or whatever your aspirations are, I think you just feel so much more in control of it. Mm-hmm. There are people that grow with lending, and you honestly kind of have a leash or a noose around your neck that you're constantly dragging along, that at any moment could be the one other thing in your well-oiled machine that throws it all into chaos.
Right.
And that's the part that I'm like, I don't want to listen to somebody else.
Right.
I already have Anthony.
Love you.
I don't think we would even look really into that, because unless we were really trying to get wealthy within the business, most small businesses are not going to be wealthy, right? Especially like building generational wealth and stuff like that. We're not going to do that. At least that's not where we're at now. If we were to get into that, if we wanted to really build wealth with this company, then we would borrow from other people and use their money to build the wealth, because that's how you get wealthy. But for where we're at in our state, borrowing that kind of money to buy another food truck is silly. It's silly for what we're trying to do.
It's just going to hurt us in the long run.
It's going to hurt us in the long run.
Now, that's kind of where it could probably be a whole nother episode in itself. But one thing that I think when we're looking at generational wealth is if you were to go to a brick and mortar store, buying your own real estate. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And if you need a loan for that, do it.
Correct.
Because then you're not throwing money away into somebody else's
correct
wealth.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And there will be an episode on commercial leases, but commercial leases are, if you ever read one, the things that are in there just blew my mind.
Yeah. And it varies from plot to plot to plot, from lease to lease. Some of it's triple net, some of it's double net, some of it's, and there's no real standard of anything of what the tenant improvements are. And you negotiate that, and you negotiate. It's just a whole back and forth. And it should be a little bit more boilerplate, and it is not in the commercial side.
Messy.
It's messy.
It's messy. Looking back at the first baby steps you took versus where you are now, what hurdles did you face that you thought were going to be insurmountable?
What hurdles did we thought were going to be insurmountable, but turned out to be not insurmountable? It's probably starting the actual business. I think that
getting the trailer.
The trailer. Yeah.
Getting the trailer.
Go on. Tell that story.
Was the hardest thing ever. I swear to God. Every night we were out back and you're like, I just want a trailer. I don't care what it is. Because every time we'd get to the finish line with something, and somebody would call and it would be a scam.
Right.
Or it'd be like the funding didn't go through because it was $1 too low or $1 too high. Or
it was built in Mexico and had to go through the tariffs and the this, that, and the other. And it was a whole. I felt like Steve Martin in Plane, Trains, and Automobiles. I want 4 tires and wheel, and I want it right now.
Oh dear.
Dear, what?
That was us.
Yeah.
Every single time we thought we had it. We thought, there was one time where we saw this beautiful trailer, and it was like right in our price range. Everything was great. We had the funding for it. We put the guys in contact with each other. We were like, this is it.
It's happening.
This is it. We have it. And we're
it's happening. It's
home.
happening, people.
Yeah. And then the guy did not want to
give up
some sort of document to let the funding go through.
Right.
He's like, I don't trust this.
Right.
And we're like, the funding is right there, dude.
Right.
We're just trying to pay you. And he's
what
like,
the funding?
Yeah. He was like,
He's like, are you talking about?
Funding?
No, can't you just give me cash? If I could give you this much cash, I wouldn't be buying this stupid trailer. I'd be buying a different trailer.
Right.
And there it was. There it went. It was gone.
And it happened like 4 or 5 times that we thought, and then we thought, well, we just are not good. This isn't going to happen.
Right. And
we're stuck. And then we got the one.
No.
The smallest little baby trailer.
The little engine that could.
You can find.
A little engine that could.
And our the two of us are fit in it and really can't fit anything else in there besides 2 people. And
it's like the kitchen off a down Periscope.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, we have a boilerplate and the 2 of us, and that's it.
And that's about it. Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I think that was the biggest hurdle. Just getting that stupid.
Yeah.
Good.
And I think the next thing that seemed insurmountable, but probably will not be, as we're trying to grow the business, we're trying to grow in food truck world. There is catering and there is vending, right? So vending is what most people think of when they think of food trucks. They pull up on the side of the street, open their window, and people come and buy, right? That's vending. Then there's the catering side of things where you do private events and it's contracts are involved. And there's a preset amount. And as we are growing this business, we are finding that vending is not necessarily the most predictable because you don't know what you're going to get. Show up to some place and you don't know what the numbers are going to be, and you might sell, 15 units. You might sell 300 units. It all depends on how busy it is, and this, that, and the other. And there's no real guarantee. It's very unpredictable.
Yeah, Sally's having a retirement party in the business office you pulled up to today.
Right.
And so now nobody's eating at normally all 50 people come down and get lunch, but nobody's eating there because
they got pizza.
The boss bought pizza.
Right.
And so now you're serving 5 people.
Right.
And there went your mortgage payment.
Correct.
Goodbye.
And so we are trying and are not hoping, because hoping is not an action plan, but we are working towards building the catering side of the business more and more and more and more. And
it's just more predictable.
It's more predictable. Yeah. And it's actually more money. Sure. You actually make more money doing just the catering. And so that's where we're kind of driving the model is to the catering side of things. But that's going to be, it's going to take some time to do that, to build that clientele up and to really market that. And again, like we said, it's just the 2 of us. So we want to change anything, we have to be the ones that do the change, and we don't have time because, it's a whole catch-22 about that. We want to grow the business, but we don't have time to grow the business. So, but that's what we're working on next. And to answer your question, that seems insurmountable, but we know that it's not insurmountable.
Right.
People do it all the time.
Right.
It's a thing that, catering has been a part of our lifeblood. That's kind of who we are, and the foundation. Hospitality kind of runs through our veins, especially when it comes to catering. And so we just got to pull the trigger and make it happen. But right now it seems insurmountable.
Yeah. And that really resonates with me because when we owned Urban Grounds, we were looking for the next phase of what that was going to be. And we were at the farmer's market one Saturday, and a lady came up and she said, I work at this high-rise building down the street, and we're looking for a kiosk, coffee kiosk for the inside of it. Okay. And they're like, we have 4,000 people that work in our office, our building, the 2 towers. And so I said, okay, well, we'll come down and take a look. We looked at it. We talked to them a little bit, negotiated out what it was going to look like. They didn't have really the proper power. I mean, with a coffee kiosk, you really need to have 220 volt,
right?
Probably 50 amps. They only had a regular outlet that probably had 20 amp capabilities, even though it was a 15 amp outlet. So yeah. So I come home, I tell Anthony.
Shocking.
Yeah, it could have been every morning. So I came home and I talked to Anthony about it, and I found a kiosk down in Glendale. I went down there, ended up buying the kiosk from that guy for like, I don't know, $4,000 or something like that. We cut the thing apart. It literally was just a kiosk. There was nothing on it. It was stainless steel welded together. Cut it apart. We mounted a refrigerator onto it. We ordered actually the same espresso machine we have here now. We ordered that same one because it's a 110 outlet, but it maxes out everything because, if you have a refrigerator on it, hot water heater, now we're talking about probably close to 30 amps. So anyways, we built out this kiosk. We take it down. We run it for, we did for like 6 months or something like that. But it really was the same thing. Like people came down when we were new. And then the thing about Phoenix at that time was it was kind of a bedroom, city type of situation going on. So people would come downtown to work and then they would go home to their bedroom cities like Mesa and whatnot. And they wouldn't stay downtown. Right. Phoenix was not a place to stay. It was, you went down to party or get some drinks or work and you went home. So I struggled with that because the mentality that has occurred in those types of communities is that, I want Starbucks. I want Caribou coffee. I want all, name brand stuff.
I want Dutch Bros.
Right. And they stick with that. And so even though we served amazing coffee, I mean, very high end stuff, after a while they went back to what they know because that's what humans do.
Right.
And so it was hard to compete with that. And then the numbers that they had given us for like 4,000 people in the building, I don't think that was even close to being accurate at all. And I couldn't imagine what it's like now. So there was a bunch of different things, but that definitely resonates with me based on like I showed up every day and sometimes it'd be 5 people and sometimes it'd be 30 people. And then when you get the 30 people seem like they're irritated with you because you're taking so much time, but it's like, can't plan for this. Like,
I can't bring a second person in.
Right.
When I had 5 people the last 6 days.
Right.
Yeah. We have this kind of philosophy of nobody cares. Right. Nobody cares on certain stuff. And there's certain stuff that we will not sacrifice on. Quality of our food, sanitation, all that stuff. The meatballs will always take 5 hours. We will never scrimp on that. We will never, hold back on the quality of the food and the recipes. Those won't change, whatever. But there are certain things where nobody cares. Nobody cares, if it's this cup or this cup, and if you're going to pay extra for this cup because it's polyurethane, right? Versus this one. And it's nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Right. And so there's a lot of those things where we have to really make those, like what you were talking about, like, am I going to do the higher end coffee espresso? Am I going to do this, that, and the other? Sometimes nobody cares. Throw a drip coffee on, and make that, and nobody cares. And so, but then sometimes they do, right? And so you have to really run that. You, as a business owner, you have to really find that delicate balance of nobody cares versus I want to hold true to these convictions because this is part of my brand and part of my standards. And we kind of do that. I think we try to suss out the nobody cares as much as we can. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
What's the one thing that you feel you're an expert at now that you've been in business for some time?
Nothing.
How to not start a business.
Hey!
No. We are probably experts on our brand awareness, I think, and our branding. We are getting better and better at it, but we're finding where our niche is branding itself.
So that's interesting that you say that because the last episode that I did was about a business that's a large corporate business that can't seem to stick to their core business values. And so they try to do everything and they're not good at anything.
Right.
That's where it's come to. And I think that's important, at whatever level you're at, right? Whether you're somebody that's selling Scentsy stuff or, you're a maker and you're selling your own product, having those core values and really fleshing out what it is that's important to you, what's important to your customer, and then get rid of the rest. And after that, you really have to listen to what your customers want, because sometimes you have to abandon things that you thought were important.
Right.
Sometimes you have to adapt things that you thought were important.
Correct.
It's just the way business is.
Correct.
It's like a river that's flowing, and if you don't change with it, sometimes you're going to end up on the shoreline.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. And when I say our branding, I want to be very clear about that. We only have 280 followers, right, on our Instagram. And that's not, we don't right now, we don't focus on our social media for our revenue, right? A lot of these businesses, they want numbers, and they want followers, and they want the content. And that's how, in our world, how we've set this up so far, the socials don't bring in revenue to us. Booking agents to go and do the things, and we could advertise to we could have 1,000 followers, and a lot of these events are private events, and this, that, and the other, and it's not bringing everybody there to, we go to Marina Heights in Tempe, right? Quite frequently. It's a great place, and we love it over there, but people on our socials aren't coming down there. Parking is rough, and it's not designed for that, right? It's not designed for that. And that's what a lot of our business is. And so we have not focused on that. But our brand, I think, is a solid brand. And I think we have developed the brand correctly. And it is still an evolving brand, because even our first menu and our first this, that, and the other looks a lot different than it did. And it's always evolving. But I think we are now becoming more and more experts in the brand. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think recipe has been the same too. Like that's solid, consistent. Like the sauces you can take to the bank every single time.
Right.
It's gonna taste that good every single time. It's gonna be thick. It's gonna hold up the spoon. It's gonna be brilliant.
Yeah, we are
every single
experts
time.
at consistency.
The meatballs are gonna be. Everything's portioned. Like we've got everything down to a science, so that there's not a meatballs aren't falling apart, and they're just perfect. And so I feel like in my brain, recipe is solid.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, all of our feedback has been overwhelmingly positive.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, we ate there a few times. I really, really like.
Yeah, you came over there and had it was you and a mutual friend of ours came over, and I think he ordered one of everything.
Dan the man, and then came and was like, "You got any leftovers?" Like Dan the man.
Yeah.
I know. The last time he was in town, I was so sick, and I always love hanging out with you guys. When he's, I love hanging out with you without Dan.
Period.
Sorry, Dan.
You chose to move away, Dan. That's on you.
Yeah. But I missed out.
Sure.
I missed that. But
and it was a rage.
That was a whole story.
Oh God,
a whole story with that. Yeah. So we'll talk about that offline.
Yeah. Next episode. So I know you said you wanted to stay positive, but this question.
Go ahead.
All of us that have owned businesses have had moments of complete despair and have wanted to throw the towel in.
Yes.
Share a moment that you've had like that and how you had overcome it.
Oh, you have to overcome that?
You're like,
stay tuned for part 2.
That was just perpetual. Go ahead, Rosie.
Oh no, me? Oh goodness. Okay, so I think the hardest part about this business for me personally is the time it's taking away from being available to the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Because I retired from my position at Lucille's and we did that on purpose.
Right.
That was not a
Mm-hmm.
I have to leave because of COVID or anything like that. That was a well executed plan. Because I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And so then when this business kind of came about, and I guess I kind of thought I was going to have less involvement for some reason. I know how the
Your
restaurant
face
business
is on the side of the trailer.
I know. I guess I didn't think it was going to be
have to get
that
a wig.
hard. I know.
Like, can I borrow one of yours?
You're so pretty. I guess I just didn't realize how much time it was going to take. And I don't know why, because I do know the restaurant business. I know a 10-hour shift is a 15-hour shift. I know that. But it was like, yeah, we're going to do this gig and we're there from 11 to 1. I was like, I could do 11 to 1. That's not going to mess with me being around the kids. But it's not just 11 to 1. It's, we have to cook at this time and have to prepare all the food and have to this and that.
And that takes all the time away from.
It takes all the time away.
And the family.
And it's like, not that they need me all the time because they're getting older and they really don't want me around half the time. Anyway, so I do know that. It's just being readily available to them. And that's all I wanted. Right. And so there's a love-hate relationship that comes along with wanting to be this bubbly, fun personality when we are on the truck. And I am 100% the face. Like, you can't see Brian. He is tucked in the corner. They are only dealing with me. And there are some days when I'm just on there and I'm a shadow of a person until that window lifts up. And then I have to
God, I know.
The whole day. And it's soul sucking and it's
people don't realize how much they take from you.
They take, and then they're like, and they want to talk to you and they suck.
Do you ever feel like the one visual that I can give folks that haven't experienced that before is I sometimes I feel like the Thanksgiving Day turkey.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone is just picking at me until I'm just a carcass that's left.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you end up, your family ends up with the leftovers.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The leftover.
If there's any leftovers.
If you have anything left, it's like an emotional ATM.
Right.
And people are just coming and withdrawing all day. And then, and you want to give it all to them because you're like, I respect you. I want to feed you this amazing food. This is my only job when I am here. Mm-hmm. I want you to eat. I want you to have a happy tummy. And I respect the fact that you are parting with your hard-earned money and you're giving me this much money to eat food that I prepared with love for you. But also, I got nothing left for you, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I got nothing left. And so getting over that and having a positive attitude every day it's not the easiest thing. But the idea of like not doing it, it's like, the kids are going to be gone soon and they don't want me around all the time anyway. And so like staying home and being like, hey guys, you want to play? And they're like, nah, ma, I'm good.
Not good.
Go away, bruh. So then I'm like, well, why am I resenting going out on the truck when the truck loves me and she wants me there and he wants me there. And, we get to play and hang out and people are like, yay, Rosie, how cool is it? Is that your face? And, and you get the same old goofy things all day long. And it's soul feeding if you let it be. So, so I guess the way you get over it is just perspective.
Perspective and medication.
Sure.
Oh, yes. No heavy doses. And don't forget to take it.
A lot of Beefeater Jen. I think one of the biggest things of despair for me was we don't get a chance to really go on vacation anymore. We used to be somewhat good about at least weekend vacations, pretty often. And in June, we decided that we were going to take a week off from Rosie's because it's the summertime and we're going to take a week off. And when we got back at the end of the month, when we were looking at all the revenues and that 1 week crippled us for the month about we had to catch up on so many bills and so many this and da all because of 1 week, which normally under normal circumstances for us, when we were both, working in corporate land, take your vacation, you get that time is paid, and then you don't have to worry about that, and off you go, right? And so the despair really came like, well, you know what? I'm going to sell this thing tomorrow. I'm going to get out of it. This is dumb. If we can't take a week off, 1 week, and God forbid one of us gets sick or one of us, gets, whatever, that's when the real despair finally started to hit in. It's like, the weight of the world is really on our shoulders because we take 1 week off and, then you struggle to pay the mortgage. It's like, what? So we've eventually got through that, and because we make so much money otherwise, we're going to be just fine.
You got to use what you got, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It wasn't your looks; it was the size of your meatballs.
That's correct. Correct. And they are not the size of.
Where's that button?
They're not the size of meatball, or not the size of softballs. They're the size of golf balls.
Golf balls.
So,
Hey.
but they pack a wallop. No, but there was a lot of despair with that. And every so often that kind of stuff creeps in.
Oh, yeah.
As much as we really try to choose a positive attitude each day, and it is an active choice for us, because we will get angry and bitchy with each other and stuff like that, and we have to then go, wait. I love you. I love you too. Okay.
You're saying this to the truck.
To the truck. Well, because we have to make a sacrifice. We do the bloodletting. I love you, truck. No, but we have to actively, in the moment, sometimes go, wait a second. This is not about us at each other, even though we're being persnickety with each other. We have to actually stop at the end of the night and go, wait a second. I didn't mean any of that.
Right.
I'm sorry. And then we choose to make a different choice for the next day. And it tends to work out in our favor. And, those kind of flare-ups don't really last very long, because I don't think they can in this, when it's just the two of us on very small orders.
Mm-hmm.
We can't be crappy to each other. We just can't. It just doesn't work.
There's not enough air in the room for
Right.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
So we choose to have good attitudes about it, because
What else is there?
What else is there?
Yeah.
Right.
It reminds me of there's T-shirts out there for the camping world, and it says, "I'm sorry what I said when backing up the trailer." Anthony and I had those same moments where it's like, "What are you doing?" I backed into the pole because you weren't on that side and you were on this side.
Right.
Whenever I was backing something up, he stands back there like this. Like, I'm backing it up. I have the window down. Use your words. Use your hands. Like, I can't understand. And then he'll be like, whoa, at the last minute. As I'm hitting the tree.
Too far.
Yeah.
Well, what's funny is yesterday I tried backing up the truck I didn't have the trailer on, right? I was just backing up, and I was having the hardest time trying to figure out the dynamics without I'm like, wait a second.
Because you're used to looking at
I'm used to looking at the trailer and having it go the certain way and backing it up. And I could not, for the life of me, back up the car on its own.
By itself. You're like, this is a lot harder without the trailer.
I had to stop and go, wait a second. Which way does the wheel go? Yeah, it was craady.
Having a moment.
I was having a moment.
And I just giggled.
Uh-huh.
I was like, hee hee.
Yeah, you're like, I'm going inside.
Do you want me to help you? You want me to go back there?
Get on my phone.
You're doing great, honey. Yeah.
I'll text you which direction you want to go.
Thumbs up.
And just like that, this episode of the Every Turn podcast is complete. I'd like to thank my guest for visiting with me on this episode, and to you, our listeners. Let's meet back here next week and discover the next turn. If you enjoy our content, please subscribe to our channel on your favorite podcast provider. Until next time, I'm Chad Chase.